The monitoring station hung in the darkness of space like a metal spiderweb. Inside, dozens of Valorian technicians watched their screens with the calm confidence of a species that had ruled their corner of the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had seen everything, or so they thought. Technician Mirasol was halfway through her shift when the alarm chimed. It was a soft sound, not urgent, just informative. She glanced at her display and saw what the automated systems had found. A fleet, unknown origin, heading toward Valorian space. She called over her supervisor, a veteran named Thexamar who had worked the station for 20 cycles. He leaned over her shoulder and studied the readings. His face showed no concern. In fact, he almost smiled. "How many ships?" he asked. 73, sir. All capital class. Energy signatures?" Mirasol pulled up the detailed scan. Fusion drives. Basic electromagnetic communications. Kinetic weapons with some missile systems. No quantum links detected. No graviton manipulation. No plasma technology. Thexmar actually laughed. "They're using fusion drives? What is this, the old era?" He patted her shoulder. "Send the report to Fleet Command, but mark it low priority. These primitives probably don't even know they've entered our territory." But something bothered Mirasol. She looked at the secondary readings. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. The signal is very strong, but it's encrypted. I can't break it." "Of course you can't. Different species, different encryption. They're probably just talking to each other." Thexmar walked back to his station. "Don't worry about it. Fleet Command will send someone to escort them out or bring them to a diplomatic station." Mirasol nodded, but she kept watching. The unknown fleet moved steadily forward. Their formation was tight and organized. These weren't random ships wandering lost through space. They knew exactly where they were going. 2 days later, Fleet Admiral Kessithor received the report in his office on the Valorian homeworld. He was a tall being with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms, each moving independently as he reviewed multiple data screens at once. His service record was impressive. 40 battles, 40 victories. He had never lost a ship under his command. He read through the sensor data with growing amusement. Fusion drives. The Valorians had stopped using those 600 years ago. He remembered seeing them in museums as a child. And kinetic weapons? That meant these aliens were literally throwing metal at their enemies. How quaint. His second-in-command, Commander Velkas, stood nearby. "What should we do, Admiral?" Kessithor waved one hand dismissively. "Send a standard enforcement fleet. 47 ships should be more than enough. Have them intercept and deliver the standard message. If these primitives don't turn around, disable their engines and tow them to Station Gamma for processing." "Should we wait for diplomatic channels?" "For what? To talk to a species that still uses fusion drives?" Kessithor shook his head. "No. We show them our strength, they understand their place, and everyone goes home. It's the same story we've done 100 times. Velkas hesitated. "Sir, there is one odd detail. They're broadcasting continuously, and the encryption is very sophisticated, much more advanced than their ships suggest." Kessithor finally looked up. "Sophisticated how?" "Our AI can't break it. Neither can our quantum computers." For a moment, the Admiral was silent. Then he shrugged. "Maybe they bought the encryption from someone else. Or stole it. It doesn't matter. Encryption won't stop a plasma lance." He made the authorization with a gesture. "Send the fleet. Let's get this over with." The Valorian enforcement fleet launched 12 hours later. 47 warships, each one a masterpiece of technology. Their hulls were made from quantum-hardened alloys. Their weapons could tear through planets. Their shields could stop anything short of a star going supernova. And every single system was controlled by advanced artificial intelligence, linked together through quantum networks that operated faster than light itself. Captain Brendid commanded the flagship. He had done enforcement missions like this before. They were boring but necessary. Sometimes younger species needed to be reminded that space was not free for everyone to wander through. The Valorian Empire had rules, and those rules would be respected. As his fleet moved toward the intercept point, he reviewed the data on the unknown aliens. No one had identified their species yet. The ships were blocky and ugly, with none of the elegant curves of Valorian design. They looked like flying boxes with engines attached. "Primitive indeed. Status report," Brendid ordered. His AI responded immediately in his mind through his neural link. "All ships ready. Weapons charged. Shields at maximum. Estimated contact in 3 hours." Brendid settled into his command chair. 3 hours. Then a short conversation. Then home in time for his daughter's birthday. Easy. But back on the monitoring station, Mirasol was worried. She had been tracking both fleets and something was wrong. Small things at first. One of their surveillance satellites near the unknown fleet had stopped responding. Then another. Then 3 more. "Thexmar," she called out. "We're losing satellites." Her supervisor came over, frowning now. "Which ones?" "All the ones closest to the unknown fleet. They're just going offline. No warning, no damage reports, just gone." Thexmar checked his own systems. She was right. 17 satellites had gone dark in the last 6 hours, all of them in the same region of space where the unknown fleet was traveling. Could it be a malfunction? Mirasol asked. 17 satellites all failing at the same time? No. Thexmar opened a priority channel to Fleet Command. "This is Station XR7. We have a developing situation. The unknown fleet may have capabilities we didn't detect, but by then it was too late." Captain Brendid's fleet was already at the intercept point. The unknown ships hung in space before them, 73 vessels against 47. The numbers didn't matter. Valorian technology was superior. Everyone knew it. Brendid opened all communication channels. "Attention, unknown vessels. You have entered Valorian territory without authorization. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted to diplomatic processing. This is your only warning." The response was not what he expected. The unknown ships didn't power down. They didn't respond at all through normal channels. Instead, their broadcast signal intensified. It was the same encrypted message, but now it was much stronger, so strong that it started to interfere with his ship's systems. "AI, filter out that signal," Brendid ordered. For the first time in his career, the AI didn't respond immediately. There was a pause. A tiny, impossible pause. Then the lights flickered. Brendid sat up straight. What was that? His weapons officer turned from her station, her face confused. "Sir, the plasma lance just went offline. It won't respond to commands. Impossible. Run diagnostics. I'm trying, sir." The diagnostic system isn't responding either. Around the bridge, other officers started reporting problems. Navigation was glitching. Secondary weapons were offline. The quantum link to Fleet Command was experiencing lag, something that should never happen with faster-than-light communication. Through the view screen, the unknown fleet just sat there. They hadn't fired a single shot. They hadn't even moved. They were just broadcasting that signal, and somehow everything was falling apart. Brendid felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. "All ships," he said quietly. "Battle stations. Prepare for combat." But deep down, he wondered how you fought an enemy that destroyed you without firing a weapon. The unknown aliens, the ones the Valorians had dismissed as primitive, had just proven that sometimes the most dangerous weapon wasn't the biggest gun. Sometimes it was the one you never saw coming. And the Valorians, with all their advanced technology, were about to learn a very hard lesson about the species called humans. Captain Brendid watched his command screen die and come back to life 3 times in 10 seconds. Each time it flickered back on, more systems showed red. Weapons offline, shields failing, communications breaking apart into static and strange patterns. "Sir, I can't reach half the fleet," his communications officer reported. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook as she worked her console. "The quantum link keeps dropping. Switch to electromagnetic backup," Brendid ordered. "Already tried. It's being jammed by that signal from the unknown fleet." Brendid stared at the human ships through his view screen. They still hadn't moved. They just floated there in the darkness, broadcasting their encrypted message. No weapons fire, no visible attacks. Just that signal. Growing stronger every minute. "Weapons status report." The weapons officer slammed her fist on her console in frustration. "Plasma lance won't initialize. Particle beams are offline. Even the kinetic backup systems are frozen. Sir, it's like something is reaching into our computers and turning everything off. That's impossible. Our systems are quantum encrypted. Nothing can hack them." "I know, sir. But look." She transferred her display to the main screen. Brendid saw the diagnostic readout. System after system was failing, not from damage but from internal errors. Cascading failures that spread through the ship's network like a disease. The AI that normally spoke in his mind through his neural link was silent. That scared him more than anything else. The AI never went silent. It was always there, always ready with information and tactical advice. Now there was just emptiness where it should be. All ships, this is Captain Brendid. Retreat to fallback position Gamma. Execute now. Only 12 ships responded. The others were either too damaged to move or couldn't receive the message. Brendid watched in horror as 3 of his ships drifted helplessly, their engines dark. Inside those ships were 300 Valorians each. Good people. His people. Engineering, I need engines. Now. The chief engineer's voice came through, barely audible over the static. Captain, the main drive is offline. We're running on emergency thrusters only. Whatever is affecting our systems is deep in the code. It's like the ship is forgetting how to be a ship. Then the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in after 3 seconds, bathing the bridge in red. But those 3 seconds of complete darkness felt like an eternity. Brendid heard someone crying quietly at their station. He couldn't blame them. Sir, his science officer called out, I'm detecting massive electromagnetic activity from the unknown fleet. It's not just a broadcast, it's a weapon. Some kind of directed energy that's overloading our systems. But our shields should stop electromagnetic attacks. Our shields are designed to stop physical attacks and directed energy weapons. This is different. It's like they're not attacking the ship. They're attacking the information itself, the data that makes our systems work. Brendid tried to understand. The Valorians had built their entire civilization on quantum networks and artificial intelligence. Everything was connected. Every ship talked to every other ship. Every weapon system coordinated with every other weapon system. It made them incredibly efficient and powerful. But now he realized it also made them vulnerable. If someone could attack the network itself, the connections between things, then all that power meant nothing. Another ship went dark on his display. That made 27 ships completely disabled. The others were barely functioning. His grand fleet of 47 warships had been reduced to helpless metal boxes in less than an hour. And the enemy still hadn't fired a shot. Get me a message to Fleet Command, any way possible. Tell them we're under attack by an unknown weapon system. Tell them to keep all ships away from this sector until we figure out what's happening. His communications officer worked frantically. I'll try, sir, but the quantum link is completely dead. I'll have to send a basic electromagnetic signal. It will take hours to reach home. Do it. While she worked, Brendid made a decision. He had to get closer to one of those unknown ships. He had to see what they were dealing with. Helm, use emergency thrusters. Take us toward the nearest enemy vessel. Slow approach. Sir, without shields or weapons, that's suicide. They haven't shot at us yet. I don't think they want to. They want to disable us, not destroy us. There's a difference. Brendid hoped he was right. Move us in. Science, I want every sensor we have left pointed at that ship. I want to know what we're fighting. His ship crawled forward, moving at a fraction of its normal speed. The human vessel grew larger on the view screen. It was ugly and blocky, just as the initial reports had said. No elegant curves, no artistic design. It looked like someone had welded together a bunch of metal boxes and called it a spaceship. But as they got closer, Brendid saw details that the long-range scans had missed. The hull was thick, much thicker than a Valorian ship. And there were no external sensors or delicate antenna arrays. Everything was built inside that armored shell. Sir, I'm getting readings now, the science officer said. That ship's hull is designed to block electromagnetic radiation. It's like they built a fortress around all their important systems, and there are no quantum links between ships. Each one operates completely independently. How do they coordinate? Basic radio communication. Very simple, very slow. But it can't be jammed by our quantum interference because it doesn't use quantum technology. Brendid felt a chill run through his body. These aliens had built their ships to be the opposite of everything Valorian. Where Valorian ships were connected and networked and smart, these ships were isolated and independent and simple. Where Valorian technology relied on AI and quantum computing, these ships used basic systems that couldn't be hacked because they weren't smart enough to hack. It wasn't primitive technology. It was hardened technology, built to survive in hostile conditions. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown fleet. It's on basic electromagnetic frequencies. Audio only. Play it. For a moment, there was only static. Then a voice came through. It was rough and mechanical, translated by a computer from an alien language, but the words were clear. Valorian vessels, you entered our contested zone without permission. You came here expecting an easy fight. You were wrong. We have disabled your fleet to prove a point. We can give you back your systems, or we can keep you floating in the dark until your life support fails. The choice is yours. Brendid's blood turned to ice. Who are you? We are humans, and we are done being ignored. The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Everyone stared at the view screen, at the ugly human ships that had destroyed an entire Valorian fleet without firing a single conventional weapon. The science officer spoke quietly. Sir, I just realized something. They offered to turn our systems back on. That means they have complete control. They could shut us down permanently if they wanted. Why haven't they? I don't know. Maybe they really don't want to kill us. Far away on the Valorian homeworld, the effects of the human attack were just beginning. Power grids flickered in 3 major cities. Traffic control systems crashed, causing chaos in the airways. Banking networks went offline, trapping billions of credits in frozen accounts. In the Capitol building, Fleet Command was in emergency session. They had lost contact with Captain Brendid's fleet. Worse, they were starting to lose contact with each other. The quantum network that held their civilization together was failing. One admiral stood before the gathered leaders. We need to understand what's happening. This isn't a normal attack. This is something we've never seen before. Should we send another fleet? With what? Half our ships are reporting system failures. The ones that still work are barely functional. Whatever the humans did to Brendid's fleet, it's spreading through our entire network. An older counselor raised her hand. If the network is the problem, can we shut it down? Disconnect everything? And do what? Go back to the old ways? We haven't operated without AI assistance in 300 years. Our people don't even remember how. The younger generation has neural implants connected to the network. If we shut it all down, millions could die. The room fell silent. They had built their entire civilization on advanced technology, and now that technology was killing them. On the monitoring station where this had all started, Mirasol watched her screens go dark one by one. She looked at Thexmar. Sir, what do we do? Her supervisor sat down heavily in his chair. He suddenly looked very old and very tired. I don't know, Mirasol. For the first time in my life, I honestly don't know. In the darkness of space, 73 human ships continued their broadcast. The message was simple once you understood it. It said that humanity had tried diplomacy and been ignored. They had tried warnings and been laughed at. So now they were speaking in a language the Valorians would finally understand, the language of consequences. The Valorian homeworld had never experienced a blackout before. For 3,000 years, their power grids had run without interruption. Their technology was perfect, their systems infallible, until they weren't. Dr. Velrin stood in her dark apartment looking out at the city below. Usually the capital was a beautiful sight at night, with millions of lights creating patterns that stretched to the horizon. Now whole sections were dark. The lights that remained flickered uncertainly, like stars dying in the distance. She was a xenoanthropologist, someone who studied alien cultures and behaviors. For 20 years she had worked in her quiet university office, researching species that the Valorian Empire had encountered and absorbed into their sphere of influence. It was good work, peaceful work, but tonight the government had called her. They needed her expertise. They needed to understand the humans. The military transport arrived an hour later, its engines sputtering and coughing. Even the transport systems were failing. The pilot apologized 3 times for the rough flight to the Capitol Command Center. Velrin told him it was fine. Everything was falling apart. A bumpy ride was the least of their problems. The command center was running on backup power. Emergency lights cast everything in harsh shadows. Military officers and government officials rushed back and forth, their faces tight with stress and fear. Velrin had never seen Valorian leadership look so shaken. Fleet Admiral Kessathor met her in a conference room. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His forearms moved nervously, a sign of deep anxiety in their species. Dr. Velrin, thank you for coming. Admiral, how bad is it? He gestured to a screen that flickered and died and came back to life. As of 1 hour ago, 73% of our quantum network is offline. Our AI defense systems are either shut down or have gone rogue and are attacking their own infrastructure. We've lost contact with 18 colony worlds. Orbital defense platforms around our homeworld are dark. Ships are stranded across the Empire, and it's all because of one human fleet broadcasting from a single location. Velrin sat down slowly. One fleet did all this? One fleet. 73 ships, using what we thought was primitive technology. Kessathor pulled up the data they had collected. We need you to tell us about these humans. Who are they? Where do they come from? And how did they do this to us? Velrun studied the information. There wasn't much. A few intercepted communications, some sensor readings from before the cascade failure, and one brief audio message. She listened to the message 3 times, analyzing the tone and word choice. They're angry, she said finally, but they're not trying to destroy you. If they wanted to, they could have. This is a demonstration. A demonstration that's killed hundreds of our people. Planes fell from the sky when traffic control failed. Medical facilities went dark in the middle of surgeries. Automated systems that people rely on just stopped working. I understand. But from their perspective, you ignored their diplomatic attempts. I'm guessing they tried to contact you before this? Kessathor was quiet for a moment. Then he called up some old files. There were 3 attempts at contact over the past 40 standard years. Each time they wanted to discuss territorial boundaries and protection of pre-spaceflight species. We sent back standard responses telling them to submit formal requests through proper channels. Did they? I assume so. But those requests would have been reviewed by AI systems and filed based on priority. A species with their level of technology would have been classified as low priority. Velrun felt a headache building behind her eyes. So you ignored them. For 40 years you ignored them, and now you're surprised they found another way to get your attention. We didn't ignore them. You dismissed them because their technology looked primitive. Velrun pulled up the sensor data on human ships. Admiral, look at this. Really look at it. Their ships have hulls 3 times thicker than ours. Their systems are completely isolated from each other. They use basic electromagnetic communication instead of quantum links. Does any of this seem familiar to you? Kessathor studied the data. No, why would anyone build ships like that? Because of where they come from. Velrun started searching through the limited information they had on human origin. We have a location for their homeworld from their navigation data. Let me check what we know about that system. She found it. A yellow star, 3rd planet. She pulled up the astronomical data and started reading. Her eyes went wide. Admiral, the human homeworld is a nightmare. Look at this. Massive electromagnetic storms that cover half the planet at any time. A magnetosphere that shifts unpredictably. Solar radiation levels that would kill most species. And the planet itself experiences tectonic activity that causes earthquakes and volcanic eruptions constantly. So they evolved in hell. Their technology isn't primitive. It's hardened. Built to survive conditions that would destroy our equipment in seconds. Velrun pulled up more data, her mind racing. Our quantum computers need stable conditions. Our AI systems need clean electromagnetic environments. Our networked technology assumes a peaceful, controlled setting. But humans never had that. They had to build technology that could work during an electromagnetic storm. Systems that would keep functioning when everything else failed. Kessathor stared at the data. You're saying their technology is designed for disaster? Exactly. And we built our entire civilization on the assumption that disasters wouldn't happen. Everything connected, everything dependent on everything else. It's efficient in peacetime. But the moment someone attacks the network itself... She gestured at the dark room around them. This happens. Another officer entered, his face pale. Admiral, we just received another message from the human fleet. They're giving us 72 hours to withdraw from what they call contested territories. If we don't, they'll keep our systems offline permanently. What contested territories? The officer pulled up a star map. It showed several systems marked in red. These regions, they all have one thing in common. Each contains a pre-spaceflight civilization. Species that are still developing, not yet ready for contact. Velrun understood immediately. They're protecting them. The humans are protecting younger species from being absorbed into your empire before they're ready. It's not absorption, it's guidance. We help species advance. Do they want your help? Did anyone ask them? Velrun knew she was crossing a line, but she didn't care anymore. Admiral, I've studied 17 species that the Valorian Empire guided. 12 of them lost their native cultures within 2 generations. 3 experienced population collapse from diseases they weren't ready for. 1 committed mass suicide rather than live under Valorian control. But that's all in classified files that no one reads because it doesn't fit the story we tell ourselves. The room was silent. Kessathor looked at her with something between anger and shame. The humans know this, Velrun continued. They've probably studied us the way I study other species. They know what we do to younger civilizations, and they're willing to go to war to stop it. Then why haven't they destroyed us? If they can shut down our entire civilization, why are they giving us time to respond? Velryn looked at the message again. Because they don't want to be like us. They don't want to be conquerors. They just want us to leave those other species alone. She paused, and maybe they're hoping we're smart enough to realize we have no choice. Deep in the archives, Velryn spent the next 12 hours searching through old data. She found something that made her call the Admiral immediately. Sir, I found something. 43 years ago, the humans sent us a detailed offer. They wanted to share their technology-hardening techniques, methods to protect systems from electromagnetic attack, ways to build redundancy into networks, protocols for operating without AI assistance. Why would they share that? Because they thought you might need it someday. They were trying to help. Look at the message that came with the offer. She read it aloud. We know your technology is more advanced than ours, but we learned hard lessons on a hard world. These lessons could save lives. Please consider this offer in the spirit of friendship between species reaching for the stars together. What happened to the offer? Your AI systems reviewed it, determined it was beneath Valorian interest and filed it in long-term storage. No one even read it. Kesthor was quiet for a long time. We had the solution to this attack 40 years ago, and we threw it away because we thought we were too advanced to need it. Yes. In space, Captain Brendid and his disabled fleet waited in the darkness. They had been given emergency supplies by the humans. Food, water, medical equipment, even spare parts, delivered by human shuttles that docked carefully with each disabled Valorian ship. Brendid had spoken with a human commander face to face. The human was shorter than him, with pale skin and eyes that seemed to see right through him. She spoke clearly and without hatred. We're not your enemy, Captain. We're just not going to be ignored anymore. Your people are good at talking about honor and civilization. Now you'll have to prove you actually believe in those things. She had left him with that thought, and in the darkness of his disabled ship, Brendid wondered if she was right. Had they become the villains in someone else's story? Had their advancement blinded them to their own arrogance? He looked at his crew, working by emergency lighting to keep basic life support running. They were scared but alive. The Huma Fleet Admiral Kesethor stood in the military museum, staring at ships that hadn't flown in 500 years. They were relics from a different age, back when the Valorians had just begun exploring the stars. The ships were crewed by modern standards with manual controls and simple computer systems. No AI, no quantum links, no networked anything. They were also the only ships that would still work. Can we actually fly these? He asked the chief engineer beside him. The engineer was old, probably the only person left in the fleet who remembered how these ancient systems worked. She walked along the hull of the nearest ship, running her hand over the metal. The Dreadstar. She was my grandfather's ship. He told me stories about flying her when I was young. That's not an answer. Yes, Admiral, we can fly them. These ships are simple, almost primitive, but they work. And more importantly, they can't be hacked because there's nothing smart enough to hack. She looked at him with sad eyes. You're really going to fight, aren't you? Even after everything that's happened? What choice do we have? If we surrender to the humans, we look weak. Every species in the galaxy will think they can push us around. And if we lose? Kesethor didn't answer. He couldn't imagine losing. The Valorian Empire had never lost a war. Even with their modern fleet disabled, even fighting with museum pieces, they had to try. Pride demanded it. Honor demanded it. Or maybe it was just stubbornness. Over the next 40 hours, they assembled a fleet of 72 ships. All of them were ancient. Some had been restored for display and actually functioned. Others had to be repaired by engineers working around the clock. They pulled crews from the disabled modern fleet. Anyone with combat training who was willing to fly in a ship with no shields, no AI support, and weapons that were basically historical artifacts. Kesethor took command of the Dreadstar himself. If he was going to send people into battle with outdated equipment, he would lead from the front. It was the least he could do. Captain Brendid volunteered to join him. After being disabled and humiliated in his modern ship, he wanted a chance to fight back. Kesthor gave him command of the Valor's Edge, another museum ship that had once been famous for its speed. The ancient fleet launched from the Valorian homeworld. Their engines were loud and inefficient compared to modern drives. Their acceleration was slow, but they moved, and that was more than the rest of the fleet could say. Dr. Velrin tried to stop them. She stood on the command deck before they left, pleading with Kesthor to reconsider. This is madness. The humans have already proven they can defeat our best technology. What makes you think you can win with ships from a museum? These ships can't be shut down by their electromagnetic weapon. We'll fight them conventionally, ship to ship, and we'll show them that the Valorian Empire doesn't surrender. Even if it means more deaths? Even if it means nothing? Kesthor looked at her. It means everything. If we don't fight back, we lose more than this battle. We lose who we are. Velrin shook her head. I hope you survive long enough to realize how wrong you are. The journey to the human fleet took 3 days. The old ships were slow, and they had to navigate carefully without the AI systems that normally plotted perfect courses. More than once they had to manually adjust their path to avoid asteroids or gravitational wells. It was exhausting work that reminded everyone how much they had relied on automation. When they finally reached the human position, Kesthor was surprised to see that the human fleet was still there, waiting. They hadn't moved. They hadn't left. It was like they knew the Valorians would come back for a second fight. All ships battle formation, Kesthor ordered over the basic radio system. Weapons ready. When I give the signal, we attack together. No mercy, no hesitation. For Valoria. 72 voices responded. For Valoria. The ancient fleet charged forward. Without shields or advanced systems, they relied on speed and numbers. The plan was simple. Get close enough to use their kinetic weapons and missiles. Overwhelm the humans through sheer firepower. The human fleet responded differently than before. This time they didn't just broadcast. They moved. Their ships spread out into a loose formation. Not organized or optimal, just scattered. It looked chaotic to Kesthor's tactical mind. There was no pattern, no mathematical perfection. Then the humans opened fire. Kinetic rounds and missiles filled the space between the fleets. The Valorians had expected this. What they hadn't expected was the volume. The humans fired everything they had all at once. It was wasteful and inefficient. Any AI would have calculated better firing solutions, but it was also terrifyingly effective. The Valorian ships had no shields. When the human rounds hit, they punched straight through the hulls. 3 ships exploded in the first 30 seconds. 5 more were crippled and spinning out of control. Kesthor gripped his command chair. Return fire. All weapons! The Dreadstar's old plasma cannons charged up and fired. The beams were slower than modern weapons, but they still hit hard. One human ship took a direct hit to its engines and went dark. Another lost half its hull but somehow kept fighting. Its crew apparently working in a section of the ship that was open to vacuum. How are they still fighting? Someone shouted on the bridge, the old engineer answered. Redundancy. Their ships are divided into sections. Even if half the ship is destroyed, the other half can operate independently. It's a terrible design by our standards, but it means they're very hard to kill completely. The battle turned into chaos. Without AI coordination, both sides fought on instinct and training. The Valorians tried to maintain formation. The humans seemed to fight individually, each ship making its own decisions. It looked like madness, but it worked. A human ship rammed straight into the Valor's edge. Captain Brendid's ship spun away. Its hull breached in 3 places. He ordered emergency bulkheads sealed and kept fighting from the part of the ship that still had air. Kesthor watched in horror as more of his ships were destroyed. Not disabled this time. Actually destroyed. Crews dying. Ships breaking apart. This wasn't the clean, surgical warfare of modern combat. This was brutal and ugly and real, and the humans were winning. Admiral, we've lost 30 ships. We need to retreat. No, we keep fighting. Sir, we're going to lose the entire fleet. Kesthor looked at the tactical display. It was true. They were losing badly. The humans had better ships for this kind of fight. Their designs were built to take damage and keep functioning. Valorian ships, even the old ones, were built for an elegant kind of warfare that didn't exist anymore. Then something happened that changed everything. A Valorian ship was hit and started venting atmosphere. The crew was dying, and a human ship approached it not to finish it off but to help. The humans latched onto the damaged Valorian ship and started transferring emergency supplies. In the middle of a battle, the humans were trying to save Valorian lives. Why would they do that? Someone on the bridge asked. Kesthor understood. Because they're not trying to destroy us. They're trying to teach us. He opened a channel to all his ships. Ceasefire. All ships cease fire immediately. Sir? That's an order. Stop shooting. Slowly, painfully, the Valorian ships stopped firing. The humans stopped too, almost instantly, like they had been waiting for it. The space between the fleets was filled with debris and disabled ships and bodies, but the fighting was over. A transmission came from the human fleet. The same rough translated voice from before. Valorian commander. Do you want to keep fighting or do you want to talk? Kessathor looked at what remained of his fleet. 40 ships lost. Hundreds dead. And for what? To prove a point that didn't matter anymore? I want to talk, he said quietly. Good. Hold your position. We're sending shuttles with medical supplies for your wounded. After that, we'll discuss terms. The channel closed. On the bridge of the Dreadstar, everyone was silent. They had lost. Not just the battle, but something more fundamental. They had lost the illusion that they were invincible. Kessathor thought about Velryn's words. She had asked what they would win by fighting. Now he knew the answer. Nothing. They would win nothing. They had just been too proud to admit it before. Human shuttles approached the damaged Valorian ships. They brought medical teams and emergency supplies. The humans worked alongside Valorian crews to save the wounded. Some of the Valorian soldiers were suspicious at first, but most were too tired and hurt to care. Help was help, no matter where it came from. On one of the damaged ships, a Valorian soldier asked a human medic, "Why are you helping us? We were just trying to kill you." The human medic looked up from the wound she was treating. Because the fight's over. And because letting you die would make us as bad as you thought we were. The soldier didn't understand, but he was grateful anyway. Back on the Dreadstar, Kessathor prepared to meet with the human commanders. He didn't know what they would demand. Surrender terms, probably. Maybe executions. He had been prepared to die in battle. Now he had to be prepared to live with defeat. He looked at his 4 hands. They were shaking. For the first time in his long military career, Fleet Admiral Kessathor was genuinely afraid, not of dying. He had never feared that. He was afraid of what came next. Of facing his people and admitting they had been wrong. Of what? The human ambassador was not what Kessathor expected. She was old, with gray hair and scars on her face that spoke of a hard life. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations or medals. When she stepped onto the Dreadstar, she moved like someone who had spent a lot of time in space, compensating for the artificial gravity with practiced ease. Behind her came 2 others. One was a young man carrying a datapad. The other was a soldier, armed but relaxed. The soldier had a kind face that didn't match the weapon at her hip. The ambassador looked around the damaged bridge and nodded slowly. "I'm Ambassador Chen. Thank you for agreeing to talk instead of die. That took courage." Kessathor felt his pride sting, but he kept his voice level. "I want to know your terms. What do you want from us?" Chen pulled out a chair and sat down without asking permission. It should have been insulting, but somehow it just seemed tired. "I want the same thing we wanted 40 years ago when we first contacted you. I want you to leave the protected zones alone. That's it. That's all. That's all. Pull your ships back from the 7 systems we marked. Stop interfering with pre-spaceflight species. Let them develop on their own terms. Do that and we'll turn your networks back on and leave." Kessathor couldn't believe it. "You disabled our entire civilization, killed hundreds of our people, destroyed our fleet, and all you want is for us to leave some primitive worlds alone?" Chen's face hardened. "Those primitive worlds have names. They have cultures and dreams and futures. And yes, that's all we want. We're not here to conquer you or humiliate you. We're here to protect species that can't protect themselves from you. We were helping those species advance." "Were you?" Chen pulled out a datapad and started reading. "The Corvin people. You made contact with them 70 years ago when they had just invented radio. You gave them technology they weren't ready for. Within 20 years, their culture collapsed. They fought 3 civil wars over who got to control the Valorian technology. Half their population died. The survivors are completely dependent on you now. They can't even grow their own food without your systems." She looked up at Kessathor. "Is that help? We didn't intend for that to happen. But it did happen, and it keeps happening, because you're so sure you know what's best for everyone else." Chen's voice was tired, not angry. We've been watching you for 50 years. We've seen what you do. And we're done watching. The young man with Chen spoke up. Admiral, we don't hate you. We actually respect a lot of what your civilization has accomplished. But you have a blind spot. You can't see the damage you do because you're so convinced you're doing good. Kesuthor was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, "Why did you help our wounded? In the battle you could have let them die." Chen smiled, and it was genuine. "Because we're not monsters. We fight when we have to. We kill when we have to. But we don't let people die when we can save them. That's the difference between us and you. We know we're capable of terrible things, so we have to try very hard to be better. You think you're already better, so you never try." The words hit harder than any weapon. Kesthor thought about all the species the Valorian Empire had absorbed, all the cultures that had been lost, all the civilizations that had been transformed into lesser copies of Valoria. He had never thought of it as destruction before. He had always believed it was progress. "How do we fix it?" he asked quietly. "You can't fix what's already broken. But you can stop breaking new things." Chen leaned forward. "Here's what we're offering. We'll restore your networks and technology. We'll share our hardening techniques so you can protect yourselves from attacks like this in the future. And we'll establish a neutral zone around the protected systems. In exchange, you withdraw, and you never contact those species until they develop spaceflight on their own. And if we refuse, then you stay dark. Your empire collapses. Millions die from starvation and system failures. Your colonies are cut off forever. Is that really worth it to maintain control over 7 systems you have no right to control?" It wasn't. Kesthor knew it wasn't. But admitting it meant admitting that everything he had believed about the Valorian Empire was wrong. It meant accepting that they were not the heroes of their own story. "I need to consult with my government. You have 48 hours left on our deadline. After that, we make the shutdown permanent." Chen stood up. "Admiral, I hope you make the right choice. We really don't want to be your enemies, but we will be if we have to." She left with her team. Kesthor sat alone on his damaged bridge, thinking about empires and pride and the cost of being wrong. On the Valorian homeworld, the debate raged. The government was split. Half wanted to fight to find some way to defeat the humans and restore Valorian dominance. The other half wanted to accept the terms and save what they could. Dr. Velrin addressed the council. "I've studied the humans extensively over the past week. I've read everything we have on them, everything we ignored for decades. And I've learned something important. They're not like us. They didn't grow up in a safe, gentle world. They come from a planet that tried to kill them every single day." She pulled up images of Earth, storms that covered continents, volcanoes that could destroy civilizations, earthquakes that reshaped coastlines, ice ages and heat waves and diseases that killed millions. They survived all of that. And it taught them something we never learned. It taught them that survival isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about being adaptable, being able to function when everything else fails. They built their entire civilization around the idea that disaster is normal, and you have to be ready for it. An old counselor spoke. "What does this have to do with our decision?" "Everything. Because we built our civilization around the opposite idea. We assumed peace and stability. We assumed our technology would always work. We assumed we would always be in control. And the moment someone challenged those assumptions, we fell apart." She looked around the room. "The humans are offering to teach us. They're offering to share the lessons they learned the hard way. We can take that offer and become stronger, or we can refuse it and stay broken. That's the real choice here." The vote was close, but eventually the acceptance won. The Valorian Empire would withdraw from the protected zones. They would accept human terms. They would survive, but they would be different. When Ambassador Chen received the message, she allowed herself a small smile. They made the smart choice, good for them. "What happens now?" the young man asked. "Now we keep our word. We restore their systems, we share our technology, and we watch to make sure they actually withdraw. And we hope they learn from this. And if they don't?" Chen looked out at the stars. "Then we do this all over again. But I think they will. They're proud, but they're not stupid. They've seen what we can do. They won't forget that. Over the next week, human technicians worked with Valorian engineers to restore the quantum networks. It was slow work, but gradually systems came back online. Power grids stabilized, ships regained function. The Empire began to breathe again. But things were different now. The Valorians had learned that their technology, for all its advancement, was fragile. They started implementing the hardening techniques the humans shared. They built redundancy into their systems. They trained people to function without AI assistance, just in case. Dr. Velrin was appointed as the chief human liaison. She spent months learning about human culture, history, and philosophy. The more she learned, the more she respected them. They were a species that had faced extinction dozens of times and survived each time through stubborn determination and adaptability. She became friends with Ambassador Chen. They had long conversations about their different species and what they could learn from each other. Chen told her stories about Earth, about a world so dangerous that humans had to evolve creativity and cooperation just to survive childhood. "We're not special," Chen said one night over drinks. "We're just survivors. We got lucky enough times to make it to space, but we never forgot where we came from. We never forgot that the universe is dangerous and unforgiving." "I think that makes you very special," Velrin replied. "You could have used your strength to conquer. Instead, you used it to protect. We've done our share of conquering, had plenty of wars among ourselves, made every mistake you can imagine." Chen looked sad. "That's why we know what you were doing to those younger species, because we did it to each other for thousands of years. We know how it ends, and we didn't want to see it happen again." Captain Brendid recovered from his wounds and returned to service. He requested assignment to the border regions near human space. When asked why, he said he wanted to learn from them. He spent years studying human tactics and philosophy. Eventually, he wrote a book about the experience that became required reading in the Valorian Military Academy. Fleet Admiral Kessathor resigned from his position. He couldn't lead anymore, not after what had happened. But he didn't disappear. Instead, he traveled to the protected zones and watched the species there develop naturally, without interference. He saw their cultures bloom and grow in ways that would have been impossible under Valorian guidance. It was beautiful and humbling and sad, knowing what had been lost in other systems. Thank you for watching and comment for next part. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Colony Station Perseverance, staring into the endless black of space. Behind her, the emergency council meeting had just ended. The news was worse than anyone had imagined. 18 months. That was how long they had been alone. 18 months since the relay network had gone dark. 18 months since they had heard anything from Earth or any other human colony. 50,000 people lived on this station, floating in the outer rim of known space, and every single one of them was starting to believe they had been forgotten. Sarah was 42 years old. With gray streaks in her black hair that had not been there 2 years ago, she was the colony administrator, which meant every problem, every fear, every nightmare fell on her shoulders. She had told people not to worry. She had said Earth would come. She had lied through her teeth because that was what leaders did. Administrator Chen. The voice belonged to Marcus Webb, head of colony security. He was a tall man with dark skin and worried eyes. "We have a problem," Sarah almost laughed. They had nothing but problems. "What kind of problem?" "The kind with guns pointed at us." Her blood went cold. "Show me." They rushed to the command center where screens showed what their sensors had picked up. Sarah felt her stomach drop. Ships. Dozens of them. No, hundreds of them. An entire fleet had just appeared at the edge of their system, and they were not human ships. Dr. Yuki Tanaka was already at her station, her fingers flying across the controls. She was their xenobiologist, one of the few people who had studied alien species. "I have identified them," she said, her Japanese accent thick with stress. "Kresh Dominion. They are a military empire from the Orion sector. Are they friendly?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "No." Yuki pulled up images of Kresh warriors. They looked like insects crossed with reptiles, with 4 arms and armor-plated skin. They conquer weak species and force them into slavery. "They only respect strength," Marcus cursed under his breath. We have 12 security officers and maybe 50 hunters with rifles. That is not an army. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. Sarah straightened her uniform. Put it through. The main screen flickered and a Kresh appeared. He was massive, with scars across his face and medals covering his chest. When he spoke, the computer translated his clicking, hissing language into English. Human colony. I am Commander Vexthor of the Kresh Dominion. Your species is weak. Your civilization has abandoned you. You will surrender this station and all its people to us within 72 hours. Or we will destroy you completely. This is not a negotiation. This is your fate. The screen went black. Silence filled the command center. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. 50,000 people. 15,000 of them were children. They had come here to mine rare minerals, to study alien ecosystems, to build a new home among the stars. They were scientists and engineers and farmers and teachers. They were not soldiers. What do we do? Someone whispered. Sarah took a deep breath. Marcus, start evacuation procedures. Get everyone into the underground shelters. They are built to survive meteor strikes, so they might hold against bombardment. Yuki, find out everything you can about Kresh culture. Maybe there is something we can use. And you? Marcus asked. I am going to buy us time. Sarah walked toward her office. And I am going to send a message to Earth. Sarah? Marcus caught her arm. Earth has not answered in 18 months. They are not coming. She pulled away gently. Then we send it anyway. Because that is what humans do. We do not give up. In her office, Sarah composed the message carefully. She explained their situation. She gave their coordinates. She told Earth that they were about to die, and they wanted someone to know they had been here. They had mattered. They had been human. She sent the message through the old FTL beacon, watching it shoot off into space faster than light itself. It would reach Earth in 3 days if the beacon still worked, if anyone was still there to receive it. If Earth still cared about a forgotten colony on the edge of nowhere, then Sarah began the impossible task of negotiating with Commander Vexthor. She opened a channel and put on her bravest face. The Kresh commander appeared again, looking amused. You wish to beg? He asked. I wish to negotiate, Sarah replied. What do you want from us? Everything. Your station, your resources, your people as workers. You will serve the Dominion or you will die. And if we serve, you will let us live? Vexthor laughed, a horrible clicking sound. Some of you. The useful ones. The rest? He made a cutting gesture across his throat. Sarah kept her voice steady. We need time to discuss your terms. To prepare our people, you have 72 hours. Not 1 second more. The transmission ended. Sarah sat alone in her office and allowed herself 1 minute to shake, to feel the terror, to imagine the end. Then she stood up, wiped her eyes, and went back to work. Over the next 2 days, the colony transformed. Families moved into the underground shelters with whatever they could carry. Engineers reinforced the blast doors. Hunters and security officers gathered every weapon they owned, knowing it would not be enough. Marcus organized them into defensive positions that they all knew were useless. David Park was a young engineer with a 7-year-old daughter named Emma. He carried her on his shoulders as they walked to the shelters, pointing out the stars and telling her stories. Earth is out there, he said. They are coming to save us. But Papa, everyone says they are not coming. David smiled, though his heart was breaking. Everyone is wrong. Humans do not abandon each other. Remember that, Emma. No matter what happens, remember that we are human. In the command center, Yuki made a disturbing discovery. She intercepted Kresh communications using a decoder they had built years ago for studying alien signals. Sarah, she said urgently, the Kresh are calling for more ships. They want to claim this entire region of space. We are not just a target. We are a test. If they take us easily, they will attack other human colonies. Sarah felt sick. How many other colonies are out here? At least 20 that we know of. All of them as defenseless as we are. Marcus joined them, his face grim. The deadline is in 6 hours. What are your orders, Administrator? Sarah looked at her people. She thought about the children in the shelters. She thought about Earth, silent and mysterious. 3 years into some unknown crisis. She thought about what it meant to be human. We do not surrender, she said quietly. We do not kneel. If we are going to die, we die as humans. Send a message to Vexthor. Tell him we refuse his terms. Sarah, Marcus started. Tell him, she repeated, her voice hard as steel. The message was sent. Commander Vexthor responded with a single word. Foolish. The Kresh fleet began moving into attack position. Sarah stood at the observation deck one last time, watching death approach in the form of alien warships. She whispered to the empty space, to the stars, to Earth if anyone was listening. We are human. We do not kneel. And if you are out there, if you can hear this, please come. But space remained silent, and the enemy drew closer with every passing second. 48 hours had passed since Sarah Chen had sent Earth the desperate message. 48 hours since she had refused to surrender. The Kresh had not been idle during that time. Mining Station Echo, located on the nearest asteroid, had been home to 200 workers and their families. Sarah watched on the screens as Kresh ships surrounded it. She opened a channel, trying to evacuate the people, but it was too late. Commander Vexthor wanted to send a message. The mining station exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness of space. 200 souls gone in an instant. Sarah closed her eyes, but she could still see it. She would see it forever. He is showing us what will happen, Yuki said quietly, standing beside her in the command center. This is psychological warfare. He wants us to be afraid. It is working, Sarah admitted. Her hands were shaking and she could not make them stop. Marcus entered, his face haggard from lack of sleep. The last of the children are in the deep shelters. We have stored enough food and water for 3 months. If we survive the bombardment, we can hide down there. If, Sarah repeated. That is a very small word carrying a very heavy weight. Down in the shelters, David Park was trying to keep his daughter Emma calm. The underground bunkers were crowded with families, all of them trying to stay brave for the children. Emma clutched her stuffed rabbit and looked up at her father with wide eyes. Is it going to hurt? She asked. David pulled her close. No, sweetheart. We are safe down here. These walls are very strong. But what about the people on the mining station? Are they safe? David's throat tightened. Emma did not know yet. None of the children knew. How did you tell a 7-year-old that 200 people had just died? That they might be next? They are with the stars now, he finally said. And Earth is coming. I promise you, Emma, Earth is coming. But Emma was smart. She heard the doubt in his voice. You do not really believe that, do you, Papa? Before David could answer, the lights flickered. An alarm sounded through the shelters. Everyone went quiet. Parents held their children. Old people held hands. They all knew what that alarm meant. On the surface, Sarah watched as the Kresh fleet moved closer. Their ships were ugly things, all sharp edges and weapon ports. They looked like they had been built for one purpose only: destruction. Incoming transmission from Vexthor, the communications officer announced. Sarah nodded. Put him through. The Kresh commander appeared on screen, his mandibles clicking in what might have been laughter. Human administrator, I have shown you our power. Your mining station is dust. Your people are dead. And still you refuse to kneel? Yes, Sarah said simply. Why? Vexthor leaned forward, genuinely curious. You cannot win. Your Earth has abandoned you. Your military is not coming. You are alone in the darkness, about to die, and yet you resist. Why? Sarah thought about her answer carefully. Because we are human. And humans do not kneel. Not to you. Not to anyone. We would rather die free than live as slaves. Vexthor was quiet for a moment. Then he said something unexpected. I have conquered 47 species. Most of them surrendered immediately. A few fought, but they always begged at the end. You humans are different. Foolish, but different. Maybe, Sarah replied. Or maybe you have just never met a species that refuses to be conquered. You will be conquered. I have called for reinforcements. 3 more fleets are coming to claim this region of space. When we are done with you, we will move on to your other colonies. All of them will fall. The human species will be added to the Dominion, and your Earth will not even know until it is too late. The transmission ended. Sarah felt cold. 3 more fleets. Other colonies. The Kresh were not just attacking Perseverance. They were planning to wipe out humanity's entire presence in this sector of space. We need to warn the other colonies, Marcus said urgently. How? Yuki asked. The relay network is still down. We cannot reach anyone. Then we fight, Marcus replied. We make this so costly for them that the other colonies have time to prepare. Sarah looked at him sadly. Marcus, we have 12 security officers and some hunters with rifles. They have hundreds of warships. We cannot fight them. Then what do we do? Marcus shouted, his calm finally breaking. Do we just sit here and wait to die? Do we let them kill us without even trying? No, Sarah said quietly. We survive as long as we can. We make them remember that humans were here, and we hope that somehow, someway, Earth hears us. But hope was a fragile thing, and it was dying with every passing hour. In the deep shelters, people were starting to argue. A group of miners had gathered in one of the common areas, and their voices were getting louder. We should surrender, one man said. His name was Robert Chen, and he had 3 children. At least some of us might survive. My kids might survive. They will enslave us, another woman argued. Or worse. You heard what the administrator said? The administrator is going to get us all killed with her pride, Robert shouted. We are not soldiers. We are miners and scientists. We should not be fighting an alien empire. David Park stood up. And we should not be slaves either. Would you really want your children to grow up as property? To never know freedom? I want them to grow up at all. Robert yelled back. The argument might have turned violent, but Emma Park's small voice cut through the shouting. My papa says Earth is coming. We just have to wait. Everyone turned to look at the little girl. She stood there in her dirty dress, holding her stuffed rabbit, looking at them all with such complete faith that it broke their hearts. Robert Chen knelt down in front of her. Sweetheart, Earth is not coming. They forgot about us. No, Emma said firmly. Humans do not abandon each other. My papa said so. Tears ran down Robert's face. He pulled Emma into a hug. I'm sorry, little one. I am so sorry, the argument ended. People went back to their families. But the fear remained, thick as smoke, choking hope from the air. Back in the command center, Sarah discovered something in the old records. Files that were 3 years old, marked classified. They detailed something called the Consolidation Protocol. Earth had initiated it just before the relay network went dark. What does it mean? Marcus asked, reading over her shoulder. I do not know, Sarah said. But look at this. Every military ship was recalled to Sol system. Every resource was redirected to Earth. It was like they were preparing for something big. Preparing for what? It does not say. Sarah scrolled through more files. But whatever it was, they went completely silent after. No messages. No updates, nothing. Yuki looked up from her station. Maybe they were attacked. Maybe Earth fell, and that is why no one has come. The thought was too terrible to speak aloud. If Earth had fallen, then humanity was truly lost. The colonies would be picked off one by one, and the human species would become a footnote in galactic history. Sarah stood up straight. It does not matter. Even if Earth is gone, we are still here. We are still human, and we do not kneel. The final hours passed slowly. People said goodbye to each other. Families held each other tight. David Park told Emma stories about Earth, about green grass and blue skies and oceans so vast you could not see the end. He told her about humanity's history, about the brave people who had explored and discovered and built civilizations among the stars. We are explorers, he whispered. We are dreamers, and we never give up. Emma fell asleep in his arms, still believing that Earth would come. David hoped she would stay asleep when the end came. He hoped it would be quick. On the surface, dawn was breaking over Colony Station Perseverance. Sarah stood at the observation deck one last time. The Kresh fleet was powering up weapons. She could see the energy signatures building. In minutes, maybe seconds, they would fire. She pressed her hand against the glass and whispered, We were human. We were here. We mattered. The Kresh weapons glowed brighter. Every screen in the command center showed the same thing. Imminent destruction. Marcus stood ready. Yuki closed her eyes. Sarah took one last breath, and then space itself tore open. The sensors screamed. Sarah Chen had never heard anything like it. Every alarm in the command center went off at once, creating a wall of sound that made her ears ring. The screens flickered and went white with static. Then they came back online, and Sarah's heart stopped. Space was tearing apart. It looked like someone had taken a knife to reality itself and cut a hole in the universe. Blue and white light poured through, twisting and folding in ways that hurt to look at. The wormhole grew larger and larger, a massive wound in the fabric of space. What is that? Marcus shouted over the alarms. Wormhole signatures. Yuki's hands flew across her controls. Multiple signatures. Large scale. Very large scale. I am reading. She stopped, her eyes going wide. That cannot be right. What? Sarah grabbed her shoulder. What cannot be right? The number of ships. Yuki's voice was barely a whisper. "There are hundreds of them." The first ship emerged from the wormhole, and it was beautiful. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of the largest Kresh warship. Its hull was sleek and dark, covered in armor plating that caught the starlight. Weapon ports ran along its sides, and engines glowed with blue fire. On its bow, in letters 20 meters tall, was a name: Indomitable. Then another ship came through. And another. And another. They kept coming, an endless stream of warships pouring out of the wormhole like a steel river. Sarah watched in complete disbelief as 10 ships became 20, 20 became 50, 50 became 100. They were all different sizes, from small destroyers to massive dreadnoughts. But they all shared one thing. On every single hull, painted in white, was a symbol, a blue circle with green continents. A white moon in the corner. "The symbol of Earth." "It is Earth," Sarah breathed. "They came. They actually came." Marcus was laughing and crying at the same time. "How many ships are there?" Yuki checked her sensors 3 times to be sure. 500. 500 warships, and they are still coming through. The Kresh fleet, which had seemed so powerful moments ago, suddenly looked very small. Commander Vexthor's ships were frozen in space, their weapons still charged but no longer firing. Sarah could imagine the shock on his face. A new ship emerged from the wormhole, larger than all the others. It was a monster, a floating fortress bristling with weapons. Its name was painted in gold: Terra's Fury. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer said, his voice shaking. "It is from the flagship." "Put it through," Sarah ordered. The screen flickered, and a man appeared. He was in his 60s, with gray hair cut military short and eyes like steel. His uniform was dark blue with more medals than Sarah could count. He looked like a man who had seen war and won. "Colony Station Perseverance," he said, his voice deep and calm. "This is Admiral James Cortez of the Earth Defense Fleet, First Fleet. We received your distress signal." He smiled slightly. "We apologize for the delay. We are here now." Sarah's legs gave out. She collapsed into her chair, tears streaming down her face. "Admiral, we thought Earth had abandoned us." "Earth does not abandon her children," Cortez replied simply. "Not now. Not ever." In the deep shelters, the emergency broadcast system came online. Admiral Cortez's voice echoed through the tunnels and chambers where 50,000 people were hiding. Emma Park woke up and looked at her father with sleepy eyes. "Papa? Who is that?" David Park was staring at the speaker with his mouth open. "That is Earth, sweetheart. That is Earth." All around them, people were crying, laughing, hugging each other. Someone started singing an old song about going home, and others joined in. The fear that had been choking them for days lifted like morning fog. Earth had come. On the flagship Terra's Fury, Admiral Cortez turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to the Kresh commander." The officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." Cortez's face became hard as stone. "Commander Vexthor of the Kresh Dominion. I am Admiral James Cortez. You have threatened human lives. You have destroyed a human station. You have killed human citizens. I am going to give you one chance, and only one chance. Leave this system immediately or face the consequences." On his command ship, Vexthor stared at the screen in disbelief. He had conquered 47 species. He had never been threatened before. He was the one who issued threats, not received them. "You dare threaten the Kresh Dominion?" He hissed. "We are the strongest military power in this sector. We have crushed empires older than your species." "That was before you met us," Cortez replied. "You have 1 hour. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. Vexthor looked at his fleet, then at the human fleet. His ships outnumbered them 2 to 1. His intelligence reports had said humans were weak, barely spacefaring, no real military power. These ships must be a bluff. They had to be. "All ships," Vexthor commanded. "Prepare to engage. We will destroy this human fleet and then finish with the colony. Show them the power of the Kresh." His officers hesitated. "Commander, we should withdraw and analyze a—" "No." Vexthor slammed his fist down. "We do not retreat from humans. We will crush them and use their ships for scrap. Attack formation. Engage both targets." The Kresh fleet moved forward, weapons charging. They outnumbered the human ships. They had firepower. They had experience. They had conquered 47 species, but they had never fought humans before. Sarah watched from the command center as the 2 fleets faced each other in the darkness of space. "What is the Admiral doing?" she asked. "Why is he not moving?" "Wait," Yuki said, leaning forward. "Look at the formation. The Earth fleet was not scattered like the Kresh. Every ship was in perfect position, forming geometric patterns in three-dimensional space. It was like watching a dance, precise and beautiful. They moved as one, 500 ships acting like a single organism. "That is impossible," Marcus whispered. "No fleet can coordinate like that. The delay in communications alone, They are using quantum entanglement communicators," Yuki interrupted. "No signal delay. Instant communication across any distance. That technology does not exist. Or it did not exist." "It exists now," Sarah said. Admiral Cortez stood on the bridge of Terra's Fury, watching his tactical display. His officers were at their stations, calm and ready. They had done this before. "Not with the Kresh, but with enemies far more dangerous, sir," his tactical officer reported. "The Kresh fleet is moving into attack formation. They are charging weapons." "Let them come," Cortez said quietly. "When they are in range, you may fire. Full spread. Show them what we have learned." "Yes, sir." The Kresh fleet accelerated, their ships spreading out to surround the human fleet. Vexthor was smiling on his command ship. This would be easy. These humans thought their numbers would save them. He would teach them about real power. "Fire," he ordered. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles launched from the Kresh ships, a wall of destruction aimed at the human fleet. It was enough firepower to destroy a planet's surface. Surely it would be enough to wow. The human ships activated their shields. The Kresh weapons hit barriers of blue energy and simply stopped. The shields flickered but held, absorbing impacts that should have torn through steel. Not a single human ship was damaged. "Impossible," Vexthor breathed. On Terra's Fury, Cortez nodded once. "Our turn. Fire." What happened next would be recorded in history books across 100 worlds. The Earth fleet fired as one, 500 ships releasing their weapons in perfect synchronization. But these were not normal weapons. Railguns fired projectiles at a significant fraction of the speed of light, kinetic energy weapons that hit like meteors. Quantum disruption torpedoes phased through shields and tore ships apart from the inside. Plasma cannons superheated to temperatures that matched the surface of stars. And new weapons, secret weapons, built from technology developed in 3 years of desperate war. The first volley hit the Kresh fleet like the hammer of an angry god. 50 Kresh ships exploded simultaneously, just vanished in balls of fire and debris. The second volley followed seconds later and 50 more ships died. The Kresh formation fell apart as captains tried to evade, but there was nowhere to run. The human weapons were too fast, too accurate, too powerful. Sarah watched the battle with her mouth open. It was not a battle. It was an execution. The mighty Kresh fleet, which had terrified her for days, was being torn apart like paper. Their ships exploded one after another, lighting up space like fireworks. "How?" she whispered. "How is this possible?" In the shelters, people gathered around screens, watching the impossible happen. Emma Park climbed onto her father's shoulders to see better. "Papa, are we winning?" David Park laughed, tears running down his face. "Yes, sweetheart. We are winning." The battle lasted 8 minutes. When it was over, 300 Kresh ships were destroyed. The survivors were fleeing in all directions, their formation shattered, their power broken. Commander Vexthor's flagship tried to escape, its engines burning at maximum power. "Disable that ship," Admiral Cortez ordered. "I want the commander alive." A single shot from Terra's Fury, carefully aimed, destroyed the Kresh flagship's engines. The ship went dead in space, unable to move but still intact. Cortez smiled coldly. "Bring him to me." Commander Vexthor materialized on the bridge of Terra's Fury in a flash of blue light. Teleportation technology. Another thing that should not have existed. He stumbled, disoriented, and found himself surrounded by human soldiers pointing weapons at him. The bridge was enormous, filled with screens and stations and officers working with quiet efficiency. At its center stood Admiral James Cortez, hands clasped behind his back, watching the Kresh commander with cold eyes. "Bring him forward," Cortez ordered. The soldiers pushed Vexthor toward the admiral. The Kresh commander was used to being the most dangerous thing in any room, but here, surrounded by these humans, he felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. "Do you know who I am?" Vexthor hissed, trying to salvage some dignity. "I am a commander of the Kresh Dominion. You cannot treat me like this. There will be consequences." "Consequences," Cortez repeated softly. He walked closer, and Vexthor could see the scars on the admiral's face, the hardness in his eyes. This was a man who had seen things, done things, survived things. Let me tell you about consequences. Cortez gestured to the main screen. It showed the remains of the crash fleet, burning debris floating in space. You came to our colony. You threatened our people. You killed 200 of our citizens. And you thought there would be no consequences? Your intelligence report said humans were weak, Vexthor said. Barely spacefaring. No real military. How do you have this? He gestured at the ships around them. Our intelligence was 3 years old, Cortez replied. A lot can change in 3 years. Let me tell you a story, Commander. 3 years ago, Earth was exactly what your report said. We had some colony ships, some mining operations, a small defense fleet. We were explorers, not warriors. He paused, his jaw tightening. Then the Vrex Empire found us. Vexthor's eyes widened. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Vrex. They were the strongest military power in known space, an empire that had conquered thousands of worlds over 10,000 years. They made the Kresh look like children playing with toys. The Vrex do not negotiate, Cortez continued. They do not accept surrender. They simply take what they want and destroy everything else. They arrived at Sol System with a fleet of 5,000 ships. They told us we had 24 hours to evacuate Earth before they burned it to ash. They wanted our system for its resources. Cortez walked to the window, staring out at the stars. They thought it would be easy. Earth was supposed to fall in days. Every prediction said we would be crushed. But they made one mistake, Commander. They threatened our home. What happened? Vexthor asked, unable to stop himself. We fought. Cortez's voice was hard. We initiated the consolidation protocol. Every nation on Earth united. Every resource was mobilized. We stopped exploring and started building weapons. We took every scientist, every engineer, every factory and told them, make us stronger or we die. He turned back to Vexthor. The Vrex expected us to fall in days. We held for 6 months. 6 months of the bloodiest fighting the galaxy has ever seen. We lost 3 billion people. Half of Earth's surface was burned. Our moon was shattered. But we learned, Commander. Oh, we learned. We studied their technology as we fought them. We adapted. We evolved. We took their weapons and made them better. We created things they had never seen. And after 6 months of hell, we did the impossible. Cortez smiled, and it was terrifying. We won. Vexthor felt his blood run cold. You defeated the Vrex Empire? We destroyed their invasion fleet. Every single ship. Then we followed them back to their nearest stronghold and destroyed that too. We showed them that humans, when threatened, when pushed to the edge, become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Cortez walked closer to Vexthor. For 3 years, we have been rebuilding. We kept it quiet because we wanted to be ready before we revealed ourselves. We built new ships. We reclaimed our colonies. We made sure that no one would ever threaten humanity again. He gestured at the fleet outside. This is the first fleet. We have 9 more just like it. And they are all out here right now, liberating human colonies, showing the galaxy that we have arrived. Vexthor's legs felt weak. 9 more fleets. 4,500 ships total, and if they had defeated the Vrex, then no one in the galaxy could stand against them. The Kresh Dominion had made a terrible mistake. What are you going to do with me? Vexthor asked. I'm going to let you go, Cortez said, and you are going to deliver a message to your Dominion. You are going to tell them exactly what happened here. Tell them about our fleet. Tell them about our weapons. Tell them that humanity is no longer prey. He leaned in close. And tell them that if they ever threaten a human again, we will not be as merciful as we were today. Do you understand? Vexthor nodded quickly. I understand. Good. Cortez gestured to his soldiers. Put him in an escape pod. Send him home. As the soldiers dragged Vexthor away, he looked back at the human admiral. Why did you show mercy? You could have killed me. Killed all of us, Cortez met his eyes. Because we are not like you, Commander. We do not conquer for pleasure. We do not enslave the weak. We fight when we must, and we protect our own. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us dangerous. Vexthor was placed in an escape pod and launched. As he drifted away from the human fleet, he watched them through the small window. 500 warships, each one more powerful than anything the Kresh had, and 9 more fleets out there doing the same thing. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed it. And the Kresh had learned a very expensive lesson. On Colony Station Perseverance, Sarah Chen watched the Admiral's ship approach. Landing craft were already arriving, bringing supplies and relief workers. Medical teams were setting up in the main hangar. Engineers were examining the damage to the station, but Sarah could not stop staring at the flagship. Admiral James Cortez was coming down. The man who had saved them was going to set foot on their station. "Are you nervous?" Marcus asked, standing beside her. "Terrified," Sarah admitted. "What do you say to someone who saved your life?" "Who saved 50,000 lives?" "Thank you seems inadequate," Marcus agreed. The landing craft touched down and the hatch opened. Admiral Cortez stepped out, followed by several officers. He was tall, imposing in his uniform, but his eyes were kind. He walked straight to Sarah and extended his hand. "Administrator Chen, it is an honor to meet you." Sarah shook his hand, barely able to speak. "Admiral, we cannot thank you enough. We thought we were going to die." "I know," Cortez said gently, "and I am sorry we could not get here sooner. We received your distress signal 3 days ago and came as fast as we could." 3 days? Sarah's eyes widened. "But we are weeks away from Earth at maximum FTL speed." "Not anymore," Cortez smiled. "Wormhole technology. We can cross the galaxy in hours now. One of the things we developed during the war." Yuki pushed forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her shyness. "Admiral, your weapons, your shields, your coordination. How did you advance so much in just 3 years?" Cortez's smile faded. "Necessity, Doctor. War forces innovation. We had to become better or die, so we became better." He looked around at the colony, "But that is enough talk of war. Let us focus on rebuilding. You have been through hell. Let us help you recover." Over the next hours, Sarah learned the full scope of Earth's operations. 47 other colonies had been liberated in the past month. Every single one had thought they were abandoned. Every single one had been wrong. Earth was building something new. The Terran Federation, uniting all human colonies under one banner, protected by a military that had proven itself against the strongest empire in the galaxy. In the deep shelters, children were being brought to the surface for the first time in days. Emma Park ran across the hangar, her stuffed rabbit bouncing in her arms, and nearly crashed into Admiral Cortez's legs. "Oh," she looked up at the tall man in the fancy uniform. "Are you from Earth?" Cortez knelt down to her level. "I am, and who are you?" "Emma Park. My papa said you would come." Everyone said he was wrong, but he was right. Cortez felt something crack inside his chest. He had seen so much death, so much destruction. But here was a little girl who had never stopped believing. "Your papa's a smart man. What is your friend's name?" He pointed at the stuffed rabbit. "Mr. Whiskers. That is an excellent name." Cortez looked up at David Park, who was watching with tears in his eyes. "You have a wonderful daughter, Mr. Park. Why did you come?" Emma asked suddenly. "Everyone said Earth forgot about us." Cortez took Emma's small hand in his large one. "Because you are human, Emma, and humans never leave their family behind, ever. Remember that." Emma smiled, and for the first time in 3 years, Admiral James Cortez felt something other than the weight of war. He felt hope. 3 days had passed since the battle. Colony Station Perseverance was transforming before Sarah Chen's eyes. The Earth fleet had brought everything: medical supplies, food, water, building materials, and most importantly, hope. Engineers from Terra's Fury were working alongside the colonists to repair damage. Relief workers were counseling families who had lost people on Mining Station Echo. Children were playing in the hangars, running between the legs of soldiers who smiled and let them examine their equipment. Sarah stood in her office looking at a holographic display. It showed the entire sector of space around them. Little blue dots marked human colonies, and as she watched, another one turned from red to blue. Another colony liberated, another group of humans who thought they were alone, now reconnected with Earth. 48 colonies, Admiral Cortez said, walking into her office. As of an hour ago, 48 colonies liberated in the past month. Over 3 million people brought back into the fold. "How many more are out there?" Sarah asked. "Intelligence suggests another 73 isolated colonies. We will reach them all within 6 months." Cortez joined her at the display. "No human will be left behind." "That is the promise." Sarah turned to face him. "What happens now, Admiral? We cannot just go back to the way things were." "We are not," Cortez replied. "Earth is establishing the Terran Federation, a unified government representing all human colonies. Every colony gets representation. Every voice gets heard. We are building something new, Administrator. Something stronger. And the military? Cortez's expression grew serious. The threat is not over. The Vrex were pushed back, not destroyed. There are other empires out there. We need to be ready. He looked at her carefully. We need good leaders. People who have proven themselves under fire. Earth would like you to take a position in the new Federation government. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. I appreciate the offer, Admiral. But my place is here. These people trusted me to lead them through the worst days of their lives. I cannot abandon them now. Cortez smiled. I thought you might say that. Then let me offer you something else. How would you like to be the sector administrator for this entire region? 48 colonies need coordination, need leadership. You could do a lot of good. I will think about it, Sarah promised. They walked together through the station. Everywhere they went, people stopped to thank the Admiral. He shook every hand, learned every name, listened to every story. Sarah realized this was why his people followed him. He genuinely cared. In the medical bay, they found Dr. Yuki Tanaka examining pieces of Kresh technology that had been recovered from destroyed ships. Her eyes were bright with excitement. Administrator, Admiral, look at this. She held up a small device. This is their shield generator. It is impressive, but our technology is at least 30 years ahead. The quantum principles alone, Doctor, Cortez interrupted gently. In smaller words, please, Yuki laughed. Sorry. I am saying that Earth's technology has advanced incredibly. In 3 years you achieved what should have taken a century. How? Desperation, Cortez said simply, and genius. When the Vrex attacked, every brilliant mind on Earth was given unlimited resources and one goal: keep us alive. Turns out humans are very creative when survival is on the line. Yuki nodded thoughtfully. I have been analyzing your fleet's communications. The coordination is perfect. No delays, no errors. You are using quantum entanglement for instant communication across any distance. Among other things, Cortez confirmed, we will be sharing the technology with all colonies. No more isolation, no more wondering if help will come. We will be connected. In the main hangar, Marcus Webb was training with some of the soldiers from Earth. He was learning about the new weapons, the new tactics, the new reality of human military power. One soldier, a young woman named Lieutenant Sarah Kim, was showing him a plasma rifle. It superheats a magnetic field to create a bolt of contained plasma, she explained. Effective range of 2 kilometers in atmosphere, unlimited in space. It can punch through most armor. Marcus whistled. We had hunting rifles and hope. This is something else. You held out with what you had, Kim said seriously. That takes more courage than having good weapons. The Admiral told us about your stand. You are all heroes here. Marcus looked uncomfortable. We did not feel like heroes. We felt terrified. That is what makes it heroic, Kim replied. Being afraid and standing anyway. David Park was sitting in the cafeteria with Emma, watching Admiral Cortez on the large screen giving an address to all the colonists. Emma was eating ice cream, a treat that had arrived on the supply ships. Real ice cream from Earth, not the synthetic stuff they made in the station. People of perseverance, Cortez said on the screen. You faced impossible odds. You stared death in the face and refused to blink. You showed the galaxy what it means to be human. Earth is proud of you. I am proud of you. He paused, looking directly into the camera. I know many of you felt abandoned. You wondered why we did not come sooner, why we went silent. I want you to understand. Earth never forgot you. Every day of those 3 years we thought about our colonies. Every ship we built with you in mind. Every weapon we developed to protect you. We were preparing to make sure no one could ever threaten humanity again. Emma tugged on her father's sleeve. Papa, does this mean we are safe now? David smiled and pulled her close. Yes, sweetheart. We are safe now. And we do not have to be scared anymore. We do not have to be scared anymore. That evening, Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck with Admiral Cortez and Marcus Webb. Through the transparent aluminum, they could see the Earth fleet in orbit. The ships were arranged in perfect formation, their running lights creating constellations in the darkness. What happens next? Marcus asked. The Kresh know about us now. Other species will find out. How does the galaxy react when a new military power appears? Carefully, Cortez replied. We have already received diplomatic requests from 17 governments. Everyone wants to know what humans want, what our intentions are. And what are our intentions? Sarah asked. Cortez was quiet for a moment. 3 years ago, we just wanted to survive. We wanted to protect our home. But we learned something during that war. We learned that we are stronger than we thought, tougher, more adaptable. We learned that humans, when pushed, can achieve the impossible. He gestured to the fleet. Now we have a choice. We can hide, keep to ourselves, stay small and hope no one threatens us again. Or we can step forward, take our place among the stars, show the galaxy that humanity deserves respect. Which do you prefer? Marcus asked. I spent 3 years fighting for humanity's survival, Cortez said. I am tired of fighting, but I am more tired of being afraid. We proved we can defend ourselves. Now let us prove we can build something worth defending. Far across the galaxy, in a darkened chamber lit by blue crystalline lights, a council was meeting. 12 figures sat around a circular table, representing 12 of the most powerful species in known space. They were watching holographic footage of the battle at Perseverance. The humans revealed themselves, one figure said, its voice translated by computers into something approximating concern. They have been hiding their strength. They defeated the Vrex, another added. That should not have been possible. The Vrex have conquered for 10,000 years. Should we be worried? A third asked. The eldest figure, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline matrix, leaned forward. We should be terrified. A new species with advanced technology and the will to use it. This changes everything. Perhaps we should eliminate them now, someone suggested, before they become too strong. It is already too late for that, the eldest replied. They defeated the Vrex. If we attack them, we risk another war we might not win. It paused. No, we need a different approach. We need to understand them. Learn their weaknesses. And when the time is right, protocol extinction? One figure asked quietly. Yes, the eldest confirmed. Activate protocol extinction. If humans become a threat to galactic stability, we will remove them. Permanently. Back on Perseverance, Sarah Chen received a final message from the relay network. It had been reconnected, linking them back to Earth and all the other colonies. She opened it and read the words from the new Federation Council. Welcome home, it said. Welcome to the Terran Federation. Welcome to humanity's future. Sarah smiled and looked out at the stars. For 3 years they had thought they were alone. For 72 hours they had thought they were going to die. But they had survived. Earth had come. And now they were part of something bigger. Marcus joined her, looking tired but happy. What are you thinking? I am thinking about what comes next, Sarah replied. We spent 3 years learning to survive. We spent 72 hours learning we were not alone. Now we get to spend the rest of our lives building something new. And if there are more threats, more enemies? Sarah thought about Admiral Cortez's words, about Emma Park's faith, about 50,000 people who refused to surrender even when death was certain, about humanity's ability to achieve the impossible when pushed to the edge. Then we will face them together, she said, because that is what humans do. We survive, we adapt, we protect our own, and we never ever give up.